Welcome to Buzz Queens. We discuss everything from glitz and glam to the pressing issues in lives of public figures. For this episode, we will tackle an important social issue. Hi, I'm Shimmer.
I'm Shine, and today we will be addressing a controversial topic involving Roman Padulli and his wife Marital Padulli. Trigger warning though for all our viewers, this discussion touches on a very sensitive topic, the marital sexual abuse.
We have Ruben and Meryl with us to discuss the recent comments made by Ruben. There's a lot of buzz about your recent comments regarding marriage. Ruben, you've publicly stated that if your wife is not willing to engage in intimate moments, you would seek it elsewhere. Can you elaborate on why you hold this view?
Yes. I believe that in a marriage, if a husband has a need and his wife isn't meeting it, it's only natural for him to seek fulfillment elsewhere. Men can get very frustrated if their needs are constantly ignored, and it seems unfair for them to be left unsatisfied.
Hearing this publicly has been incredibly hurtful. I've been in situations where I felt coerced into intimacy because of my husband's views. His belief that he is entitled to intimacy whenever he desires has created a situation where I felt I had no choice but to comply, even when I didn't want to. It made me feel like my boundaries were secondary to his needs. The constant pressure to meet his demands has eroded my sense of self-worth and safety. It's made me feel like I have no voice, and my emotional and physical well-being have suffered as a result. It's a form of emotional and sexual abuse that I tolerated because I was led to believe that this was a part of my role as a wife.
You've shown so much strength in sharing this. Ruben, it's clear that your comments have had a damaging impact. This is a moment for you to reflect on your beliefs and behavior. Because it's concerning now that you suggested that sexual intimacy in a marriage should be seen as an entitlement.
Ruben, we want to understand what has influenced you to think this way. As much as we want to see your perspective, your comment has negatively impacted many.
But I believe that in a marriage, both partners have responsibilities to each other. If a wife refuses intimacy without any reason, what is the husband supposed to do? It's frustrating.
You keep talking about frustration and needs, but what about my needs? What about my right to feel safe, respected, and valued in this relationship? It's as if you've forgotten that I'm not just here to serve you. I'm your partner. And that means my feelings and boundaries matter too. You've never considered how your constant pressure makes me feel. How it makes me dread every interaction. How it makes me feel like I'm not a person anymore. Just a means to an end. I've tried to communicate this to you so many times, but it feels like my words fall on deaf ears.
That's where you're missing the point, Ruben. Marriage is not a contract of entitlement to someone else's body. Consent is a continuous and necessary part of any intimate relationship.
I understand that now. But it's hard to change perspectives that have been ingrained for so long. And to anyone who was offended or didn't like what I said about marital issues, I apologize. But my point was, what are men supposed to do when they believe in sexual rights and are in need? Not drunk, not violent, not under the influence of any substances, just driven by love and lust.
But that's the problem, Ruben. You keep talking about your needs as if they're the only thing that matters. But what about my needs? What about my right to say no? I've told you so many times how your constant pressure makes me feel like I'm not a person with my own boundaries and feelings, but just an object to satisfy your desires.
Ruben. This is exactly where perspective is deeply flawed. Marriage isn't a license for entitlement. It's about mutual respect and consent in something that must be given freely every single time. When you say things like, shouldn't there be some expectation of intimacy? You're ignoring the fact that consent can never be assumed. It must be sought, respected, and
I
honored.
get what you're saying, but it's not that simple. This is how I was raised, how I've always seen marriage. You can't expect me to flip a switch and see things differently overnight.
Ruben, you're still missing the point. It's not about whether you're drunk or violent. It's about recognizing that love doesn't equate to entitlement. It's about understanding that your partner's autonomy and feelings matter just as much as your own. The fact that you're struggling to see that this is concerning, it highlights how deeply ingrained these toxic ideas are.
Toxic? You call it toxic, but this is what marriage is. You're telling me that after years of thinking this way, I'm supposed to just forget everything I've known? I'm not trying to be a bad husband. I'm just saying that in a marriage, needs are supposed to be met.
I think we need to take a quick break. This conversation has become very intense, and we want to make sure everyone has a moment to breathe and collect their thoughts.
Yes, let's take an early break. Ladies and gentlemen, Boys Please will be back shortly.